Peace, everybody. Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch,
Rob Jarrell.
and today we're doing a special segment called Bourbon and Boxing, coined by our brother Rob Jarrell. So, what we're going to do is we're going to have us some drinks and we're going to talk some boxing. So, like and subscribe because in the future we're going to get our tech on and learn how to do this live so you all can join us as we partake in our spirits. So what you got, Rob?
Well, first of all, I'm going to let you know I'm going to be sipping on a little Buffalo Trace out of Kentucky, straight
Okay.
bourbon for the first section, and we're going to be talking about it was an official fight. It wasn't an exhibition. It was Tyson Fury taking on Ngannou.
Francis Ngannou.
Francis, and I was about to call him everything else. Francis Ngannou
Before you
and
get into it, I'm gonna let them know what I'm drinking here.
oh,
I don't have bourbon today, but I got Uncle Nearest with me, Big Unc, the whiskey. So we'll take a quick drink. Salute.
salute.
All right, now go ahead and kick us off.
Yeah. So again, Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou, Saudi Arabia. Um, Francis Ngannou's first actual official boxing match in fight away from the UFC. He is under PFL now, and
Yep.
The he's taking on the man at heavyweight. I know we have two champions. We have Tyson Fury, and then we have
Usyk.
what's my man, Alexander Usyk. But this was it. This was the first, well, let's just say second really big exhibition, but actually official boxing match that we've had since Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. And,
Yeah, that was the first of its kind, and
mm-hmm.
yeah, because Ali and Inoki was a straight up exhibition.
Right.
Um, I can't think of any others where there was like a high profile boxer and a fighter that did something of this magnitude since then until Mayweather McGregor. So yeah, man, like this was a big deal, seeing as how Francis was the former UFC champ. He was stripped. He then leaves, tells everybody, look, I want to be a heavyweight boxer. I'm going to fight the heavyweight champ. A lot of people laughed at him, was like, look, that's not happening. It wasn't ever going to happen as long as he was under the UFC, because Dana White had said after the Conor thing, he was never letting that happen again.
Well,
Leaves. Yeah,
well,
go
we know
ahead.
there was a lot more money in it with the box match, especially of that magnitude. And granted, the Tyson Fury money, I don't think was anywhere near
No,
the McGregor Floyd
no.
Mayweather money.
I
But
think Conor cleared 100 million in that fight, and
but
Floyd cleared like 350 to 4. Like, it was ridiculous the amount of
but
money they made off that fight.
but it was still a lot of money involved, and probably I would say France's biggest payday to date.
It was more than his entire MMA career combined.
Now that should tell you the ridiculousness. And we're going to talk the business of boxing a little bit. I just don't like to get overly into the politics and the rumors and the BS that are associated with sports and
Yeah,
the sports.
and I don't.
Yeah, so just
However, this is a different forum, so we go talk a little bit. Like most time, we just like to talk technique. Like if this is your first time here, usually we talk mostly technique, strategy, how it played out in the ring and stuff like that. But in order to really set this up, we got to do a little bit more talking about some things to really set up what we saw tonight.
mm-hmm.
So go back to
Yeah, I mean, but we both know this was about the spectacle. I mean, you're
yeah.
talking. There's always what's better, UFC or boxing. I'm sorry, mixed martial arts or boxing, boxing or mixed martial arts. And
No,
let's
you know what? You had it right, because there's
Yeah,
so many people out there who don't like they
know
don't
the
even
difference.
know about MMA as a sport. They just know UFC.
Right. And considering that there's a bunch of different mixed martial arts promotions, we know UFC is the biggest, but like you said, where francisngannou is signed to PFL, we know there's ONE FC, we know there's Bellator. I think it's another one out there.
Those are the big
The big,
dogs.
and of course,
And there's I mean, honestly, there is a steep gap in notoriety. So like you got UFC one and then Bellator and PFL are like way down here. I mean, like we love them,
yeah,
but if you go out on the street in the US, you will hear about the UFC. You go over to Asia and
ONE
what
FC.
they call the Pacific Rim is ONE FC because they are all or they're Japan, Thailand, Philippines, like all that area
Mhm.
is ONE FC.
But what I
And
will say,
yeah,
with that being said, I think the while UFC has the most consistent big money amongst mixed martial arts, I think there's a lot more freedom for everything else that surrounds the business of, I was about to say pugilism, but of mixed martial arts. Is one of the big things is sponsors. We know that I think they UFC, I think they still have Reebok. Am I correct?
no, they moved to Venom.
Okay, they have
And
Venom.
yeah, and then like they provide the sponsors and the fighters get like a very, 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 very small piece of that.
Well,
Um, it's
but
not
there's
like
more freedom
somebody say
with the
would you
other
say,
promotions.
yeah, like there are some fighters who make like what a normal guy's yearly salary is in sponsorships in like other organizations. And before UFC kind of changed their sponsorship rules, you had guys like, like Ben Henderson, Rampage, like all those guys, they were making good money off their sponsors. And they were upset when that model went away.
Yeah, and
So
really think about it. You can almost compare this the freedom that guys get away from UFC by being able to have their own sponsors. And then we're not just talking big sponsorships like we said, Reebok, Venom, Monster Energy Drink, but like stuff
mhm,
like that. But we're talking about even those local sponsorships. You pretty much get sponsorships where you can because you're basically a contract on 1099 almost
self-employed, yeah.
self-employed or contract employee with when you go into deals with UFC, PFL. The same thing is with almost any sport at this point. And those sponsorships are a big thing by filling in those gaps because there is such a lot of expenses that come along with those purses.
Yeah.
You have to pay taxes, then you have to pay your promoter, then you have to pay your trainer, then you have to pay your manager, and then whatever is left over is what's covered. And a lot of that goes toward
Sparring
bills,
partners,
sparring.
gym
Yep,
dues.
it's a lot, and those sponsorships mean a lot. And it's not everyone's a champion. Some guys are just they may be in the top 10 and maybe get that title shot, but then you have guys who are just going to work. I mean, some guys come in to lose in all sports.
Yeah. So like we say all that to say that like unfortunately as the prestige of MMA builds up, the money still isn't there, which is why you have so many guys trying to do pro boxing. And we're going to come back to that point later because, there is something that like I have on my mind that as I watched this, I was like, oh God, this is horrible. But so Francis wanted
Mm-hmm.
more money. He wanted different things for the fighters to be able to do that the powers that be at the UFC were like, no, we're not giving you that much power.
And
We
it
we
wasn't.
Did it
Go
once
ahead.
with Connor, and this, it didn't work out great for us. Like, yes, he made a whole lot of money, but then, he became incredibly inactive. He became hard to deal with, I guess. And so we're not going to do that again. Francis walks. Everyone's like, you just fumbled the bag, blah, blah, blah. You can't get a Tyson Fury fight without, some big promoter behind you. You can't, you're not, you're not going to get any real money outside of the UFC. Like, this is where all the money is. First thing, he signs this huge game changing deal with PFL. Like, stupid money, the ability to box. All of his opponents, I think, are guaranteed at least $1 billion or something like that every time they fight him. It's just like it's a fighter's dream, this contract that he gets. A few weeks after that, they
Mm-hmm.
announced the Tyson Fury fight. And, for all intents and purposes, this is supposed to be a farce. I mean, even one of the promotions was called Gimmick Promotions. Like, everybody's like, okay, we know, this is a money grab, it's not going to be competitive, is, all of those things that we usually think about when we think about a sport versus sport matchup. You look at Conor versus Floyd, it wasn't really competitive. Um, you look at anytime a non professional mixed martial artist has tried to do mixed martial arts, hasn't gone well. CM Punk, James Toney. The only there Holly Holm is probably like the best success story of a former boxer going into mixed martial arts. Clarissa Shields 1-1. But none of them went straight to the top.
No.
Except for James Toney, because he fought Randy Couture, and that was as bad as it sounds.
Yeah.
So we expect that, Tyson Fury has been knocking people out, knocked out Deontay Wilder twice, knocked
Mm-hmm.
out Dillian White, uh, on a collision course with Usyk for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. This was a pit stop, so much so that they signed for him and Usyk to fight in December. Then what happened, Rob?
Then we either got a really bad showing by Tyson Fury, or we got a better than expected showing from Francis Ngannou, or it's a mix of both.
I
Because
go both.
one, we know Tyson Fury. It's one of those situations where we know Tyson Fury is clearly better, clearly more experienced, clearly has all of the so-called boxing advantages, maybe except physical strength and abs.
Yeah.
But
And
but we also know Francis Ngannou, and I think this is where and this is, people aren't going to like this, where I have a certain level of respect for Ngannou than I did for Conor McGregor, because we know Conor McGregor is a great. I think his background was kickboxing. Was it kickboxing or taekwondo?
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Whereas I think Ngannou was also kickboxing, but MMA, but he was just
No,
raw, and everything
I
he
think
does.
he was like straight off the street. Like,
Yeah,
he was
either way,
like a salt mine, not a salt mine, a sand. He was in a sand mine.
it doesn't matter. It was
Yeah.
straight up. His ability was straight up raw,
Right.
and everything that he did was raw. But he had unrelenting power and really a really high level of determination. And he was more humble in his approach, because you can actually see in this fight where, as he doesn't have that fluidity, he doesn't really know those really small nuances to the game. You know that he's not fast because he was extremely slow in this fight.
Yeah.
But you could actually see the fact that he truly put in the hours to at least be a competent boxer.
Right. Right.
Whereas we
And
have seen other fighters who box, competent is really just, I mean, even in their first 10 fights, competent is literally barely a word I would even use, other than the fact that they might, again, have really good size and fight changing power. And especially
and
at the heavyweight division.
yeah, I probably go ruffle some feathers when I say this, but his hooks were a lot cleaner than Deontay Wilder's hooks. And Deontay got how many fights in?
Is he at
Deontay's
40?
left hook was sloppy for what, a good 20 fights before he was able to like throw a decent left hook.
And it's funny
And
because,
Francis not only threw a clean left hook, but he dropped Tyson Fury in the third round off
right.
a counter left hook.
And,
For
it, and it's
somebody in their first fight, that ain't supposed to happen.
and not just the hook, but again, you can see there was a certain level of discipline that just came. Now, granted, it wasn't pretty. Everything he did was not pretty,
Yeah,
but
like his footwork was pretty awful. And
but
and as I say that, like those are things Tyson Fury should have been taking advantage of. So let's like, I mean, like start getting into like the actual fight itself. Cause
yeah,
like Tyson, he comes out there, he's clearly showing like you can kind of look at his face. He's just like, I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna just do what I do. Like he
mm-hmm,
was very nonchalant about it, and it looked like, he was gonna just wear him down. He was working the jab to the body, he was working the jab upstairs.
mm-hmm,
He's, using the ring, making Francis chase him around. Francis looks like, he's trying to counter him, but, Fury's on the jab and he can't do it. And then Tyson stops doing all of that. Um, he did unload on him a couple times with a right hand. And this
mm-hmm.
is where another thing that he was able to take advantage of with a lot of his other opponents that he wasn't able to with Francis was use his size. So like, he doesn't have a high knockout ratio. Like he doesn't hit hard, even, for a heavyweight. But what
So
he
he's
usually
6'8",
does,
275.
yeah, for a guy that big, you'd expect him to be lights out like a Deontay Wilder or something like that. He don't
Mm-hmm.
hit that hard. But what he would do is he would use his weight because he was so much bigger than everyone else and wear them down to the point where you're tired, a soft punch go hurt.
Yeah,
So Tyson is what, close to 280. Francis was like 275.
yeah.
And
He
he
walks around
yo,
probably at 275.
yeah, I mean, I think the official weigh in, he was like 250, 275, and Tyson was like 277 or something like that.
And keep in mind, I think in UFC you have to come in or
265.
265.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big Ngannou is. 6'4", maybe 6'5", 265, and he's raining down.
Yeah, so he like you with like another 40 pounds.
No, I am
What you like?
250. 250. So
Dang, Rob,
maybe me.
you didn't got jacked.
Hey, hey man, I deadlifted 500 pounds the other day, so I'm good.
My man.
So
So
yeah,
yeah, like and if y'all seen our old videos when we used to stand next to each other, I'm a small dude. Like if I was to cut weight, I probably could get down to like 135. I'm probably about 150, 155 right now. Like I'm a small dude. So like standing next to Rob, he used to look big. So add another 20, 25 pounds onto that, and you got Francis Ngannou. These not small dudes. So Tyson Fury used to lay on. Steve Cunningham was like 210, 215. Deontay
mm-hmm.
Wilder around the same size. Dillian White is a bigger guy, but he's not in the same condition as a Francis Ngannou, who not only is big, but he's used to dealing with guys who grapple and wrestle. So, like, he had that match with Stipe where he got tired. He works on that, and now he's throwing Stipe around.
And
He
Stipe is
manhandled.
probably about
Stipe is like
240,
240.
245. Yeah.
So now you have a man who is close to your size, who is as strong, if not stronger than you. You can't use that weight anymore. So that goes out the window, and he's unloading on Ngannou, and he starts to look tired, but he can't put him away.
Not in the same manner. I mean,
Yeah,
he could pinpoint him, but even with his punching, of course he had the advantage. But even some of the things that Ngannou was doing, kind of catching the jabs where he could, ducking under the hooks. There was a couple times I think he threw a right hand, wide right hand, and Ngannou went under. He landed a pit. They didn't call it, but he landed a picture perfect left hook to the body. Like I'm talking about under, boom, perfect arc coming right back up, and that's something that you can see that he practiced. That's how it was really nice. It was a really nice hook to the body, and Tyson felt it. And that's the kind of thing that we talk about where you look at fighters, again, I hate to use Deontay Wilder as an example, but he's not doing that.
yeah.
If he can't
So
throw the 1-2 and maybe the occasional wide left hook, it's almost like, what can you do? And then he ends up swinging wildly, whereas I expected Ngannou to swing wildly, and he was
yeah,
actually more disciplined and not overdoing it the way he would do in mixed martial arts.
right. So like we said, you got it. Like we got about 10 minutes left, but Ngannou showed so much more polish and skill that even like when Conor was throwing his punches, Conor was looking sloppy. Like he landed like one good uppercut on Mayweather in their
Mm-hmm.
fight that Mayweather ate, and that was another thing. Like I feel like Tyson was trying to do the same thing Mayweather did, whereas like Mayweather carried McGregor for about 5 rounds, made him work a lot harder than he expected to, and ended up getting the finish. Like he turned up the heat on him and finished him. And Tyson tried that, and Francis was like, "No, bro, that's not happening."
It's someone who has come in expecting something, and another guy coming in probably not expecting anything other than let me come here and do the best I can, and maybe I can catch him. Which again, he did with that left hook, that counter left
Yeah,
hook.
yeah. And Tyson, he can say all he wants to, he won't hurt. They zoomed in on his face, and you could see for a couple seconds he was like, "Oh,
This guy came to fight.
yeah." So and at one point, I think it was like the 8th round, like Francis went for it, and it looked like Tyson was trying to tire him out, and then he starts selling out on right hands, and like he landed them joints, and Francis was like, "Ow, bro!" Like it was so impressive to actually see like this was not supposed to happen at all. Like any point in this thing, like he was not supposed to be competitive. He damn sure was not supposed to drop him, and the majority of the world feels he won the fight.
It was a split decision.
It was a split decision, yes. Now, granted, the majority of the world does not know how to score a fight.
No. Mm.
Even like actual fighters, like don't know how to score fights. We know because we work with them in the gym, and it's not something that a lot of people don't teach that part of the sport. Like
Mm.
some fighters know how to win fights. Some fighters just know kind of how to fight. You know what I
And
mean?
let's be honest. This is kind of why I miss Andre Ward being a commentator, and I like Tim Bradley as a fighter, but sometimes he gets a little too excited. I'm like, I don't think you saw what I saw, bro. I think we was
Yeah,
looking at two
yeah, I
different
feel you
things.
on that. Um, yeah, he used to call Tim all the time, like, no, I don't think that's happening, bro.
Not this time, but again, it's I had to give it to Fury, and I
Yeah, I
think
mean, there were. it was a good 4 rounds where like Francis was just looking at him while he
Right.
was eating the jab. Like
But
the first
again,
2 rounds and the last 2 rounds were like he kind of just was
mhm.
stuck in mud. And that's when it was looking like, okay, like this is the Tyson Fury that can take over the world, or the Tyson Fury that should have been in the ring. 3rd round, he was doing well, but he gets caught. That's a 10-8 round. So no matter what he was doing in that round, he automatically loses a point. And then the 8th round, when Francis had his flurry, and then there was a couple other rounds where he, I think the 7th round where he went at him and he had him a little hurt. I can't remember which round it was. Tyson went in to grab him, and Francis clocked him, and he went down on a knee. And they were like, "Oh, he kind of falls and slips." Like, no, Francis hit him as he tried to
Yeah.
come in, and he went down.
That was another aspect that I thought that Ngannou had a bit. I'm not going to say a bit of an advantage, but a bit that he did much better at, and that was infighting, especially in the clinch. And of course, we know in MMA they clinch a lot.
Yeah, and that was
And
another thing. Like, we expected to, like, there's a different kind of clinch, but you know, like we said earlier, Tyson is used to using that to his advantage, but he had somebody that was much more proficient in that aspect of combat and totally washed it.
and much more willing to throw because a lot of times when a guy, and again, take it from someone who has been in the ring and sparred, and at the time I could barely see before I got LASIK, so I was in the clinch a lot. And your focus is almost on trying to position yourself, trying to control this person, because I don't know how many people are wrestlers, but wrestling another person is extremely difficult, no matter the sport, whether it's wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, freestyle, Muay Thai clinch, or even in boxing. It's still wrestling, it's still positioning, and then getting a hand free to be able to throw. You're almost kind of trying to do 3 things at once. And Ngannou, surprisingly, was very willing to throw the trigger and throw it at a great time, whether it was an uppercut or whether it was thrown up over the top. And it was, again, surprisingly proficient and surprisingly, I mean, it's just, again, one of those little nuances that you didn't really expect for him to show. And that, again, that's time, that's determination, that's discipline, and that's humility in listening to people who know better than you do.
Right. All right. Unfortunately, we got about 2 minutes left. So I'm gonna throw another hot take out there. We gonna wrap this up, and we want y'all to like discuss in the comment section. We'll be in there furthering this conversation with y'all. But what I wanted to say was that this fight legitimized Jake Paul. Because remember, like, everybody clowned him for years about fighting former MMA fighters. They're not boxers. You're not fooling us real fans into thinking like these are competitive fights, because this is a different sport and they're not used to it. And we just had Francis Ngannou take the legitimate heavyweight champ to the brink and almost win a fight. He won the night regardless, because the majority of the fans think he won. He had an outstanding showing, and Tyson Fury embarrassed the sport.
I've said.
Yeah.
With that being said, Hakeem, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This was our first Bourbon Boxing.
Yep.
Catch us on the next ones. We're going to hope to talk about Showtime ending their boxing
yeah, and
going
the
forward.
potential Amazon Prime deal that's happening with PBC. So
Exactly.
like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see y'all in the next video. Till then, fight on.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick rhyme, hurricane. I told them I don't flame. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.